May 1943. A German soldier surrenders in North Africa, expecting interrogation. But what he heard next, chillingly, shattered everything he believed. His enemy spoke perfect, local German, because they were the ghosts of his past. This is the untold story of Fort Hunt. You won't believe what happened behind these walls. May 11th, 1943. Cape Bon Peninsula, Tunisia. The air doesn't move. It's a solid, shimmering wall of heat, baked white by a relentless African sun. For Obergefreiter Karl Schmidt, crouched in a shallow scrape of earth, the world has shrunk to this patch of dust, the sweat stinging his eyes, and the deafening, continuous rumble that isn't thunder. It's the sound of an army dying. The Deutsches Afrikakorps is finished. The myth of the desert fox feels 1,000,000 miles away. Rommel is gone. This is no longer a war of lightning maneuver. It's a simple, brutal equation of steel. And the Allies have all the steel. Down. Kopf runter. Karl flinches, pressing his face into the grit as a shell from an American M3 Grant tank screams overhead and explodes 100 meters behind him. The sound is a physical punch. His ears ring. His Feldwebel, a grizzled veteran named Steiner, is yelling, but the words are lost in the chaos. It doesn't matter. There are no orders left to give. For 3 days, they've been in a fighting retreat. Now, there is nowhere left to retreat to. The Mediterranean is at their back, a vast, indifferent blue, and the horizon is choked with the smoke of burning panzers and the dark, advancing shapes of Sherman tanks. You can smell the end. It's a mixture of cordite, superheated metal, burning diesel, and the sour stink of fear. Karl's hands are slick on the wooden stock of his Kar 98K. It's hot to the touch, and he hasn't fired it in an hour. There's no target. There is only the target, and it's them. A sudden, terrifying silence falls over their position, replacing the artillery with the pop-pop-pop of distant small arms fire and the grinding crunch of tank treads. Karl dares to look. Steiner is standing up, not in defiance, in resignation. His MP-40 submachine gun is dangling from its strap, muzzle pointed at the earth. "It's over, Jungs." Steiner's voice is cracked, barely a whisper. "It's done." He unclips a small, dirty white cloth from his pack and ties it to the barrel of his weapon, holding it aloft. One by one, the other men in their depleted platoon stand. They are ghosts in tattered, sun-bleached uniforms. Some drop their rifles. Others, like Karl, just stand there, numb, waiting for the final bullet. It doesn't come. Instead, a British infantryman, wiry and cautious, his face smeared with grime, crests the ridge. He's holding a Lee Enfield, and he doesn't look like a 10-foot-tall demon from the propaganda posters. He just looks tired and thirsty. "All right, lads," the soldier shouts, his voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "Hands on your heads. Auf die Köpfe. Drop the weapons. Move it." Karl's fingers slowly uncurl from his rifle. He lets it clatter into the dust. The sound is shockingly final. He places his hands on his Stahlhelm, the helmet suddenly feeling absurdly heavy. He joins the shuffling column of grey-green uniforms, a river of defeated men flowing down the hillside towards the coast road. He is now a Kriegsgefangener, a prisoner of war. The sheer scale of the surrender is breathtaking. The road is choked with them, thousands, tens of thousands, Germans and Italians, pilots and panzer crewmen, staff officers and infantry grunts. They are herded into vast open-air pens on the beach, guarded by a few tanks and a handful of weary Allied soldiers. For Karl, the war is over. He expected to die in this dust. Instead, he is alive and profoundly confused. He's 21 years old. He's from a small village near Stuttgart. He's been told his entire life that his enemies are subhuman, degenerate, and weak. That night, under the cold desert stars, he is marched with 1,000 others onto a large transport ship. The gangplank rattles under his boots. As he steps from the solid earth of Africa onto the steel deck, a new, chilling uncertainty washes over him. He survived the battle. But what happens now? Where are they going? He doesn't know it, but he has just begun a long, strange journey. A journey that will take him across an ocean to a place he's never heard of. a place that will shatter his entire understanding of the enemy and of the war itself. The hold of the Liberty ship is a dark, metallic womb, suffocating and alive. For 21 days, Karl Schmidt lives in a world reduced to the thrum of massive engines, the creak of bulkheads protesting the Atlantic swell, and the sour, close smell of nearly 3,000 unwashed men. They are a cross-section of an entire army, crammed into the tiered bunks and dark corners of the cargo bay. Panzer Grenadier, Luftwaffe ground crews, and grizzled engineers. The rumours, the latrinen parole, are the only currency. "We are going to Canada," whispers a young radio operator from Munich. "My cousin was captured at Dieppe. They work in the forests. It's not so bad." An older lieutenant, his face a mask of cynical disdain, snorts from a top bunk. "Fools. They are taking us to America. We will be paraded through New York in chains, like the Romans did. Then, to the factories. We will build their tanks until our hands bleed." Another rumour is darker, that the ship will be sunk deliberately, that they are being sent to Siberia, handed over to the communists. Karl tries not to listen. He clings to the memory of Feldwebel Steiner's practicality. They are not taking us this far to shoot us. The real terror is not the American guards, who seem content to leave them in the darkness. The terror is their own side. Every time the ship's alarm bells clang, a collective, silent panic flashes through the hold. A U-boat, their own wolf packs, hunting, Allied shipping. They are trapped in a steel box, praying their own Kriegsmarine doesn't find them. It is the ultimate, bitter irony. Then, one morning, the engine's rhythm changes. A shudder. A slowing. The air in the hold grows still. After an hour of agonizing silence, the hatch covers groan open, flooding the space with brilliant, painful daylight. "On deck! Raus! Get on deck!" Karl scrambles up the metal ladder, blinking, his eyes streaming. He steps out into the cool air of a bright June morning. He follows the line of men to the railing, and he freezes. He is not in a bombed-out port. He is not in some frozen wilderness. Before him, pristine and whole, is a city. A skyline of impossible size, dominated by a single, colossal green statue of a woman holding a torch. New York Harbor. The sheer, staggering power of it hits him like a physical blow. The water is choked with ships. The docks are piled high with mountains of crates, tanks, trucks, and guns. Overhead, aircraft drone lazily in a sky clear of flak. This is the arsenal. This is the enemy. And it is completely, utterly untouched by the war. The propaganda he'd been fed his entire life of a decadent, crumbling, racially divided America disintegrates. The sight of this harbour, the sheer scale of this unbloodied industrial giant, is a more terrifying weapon than any artillery barrage. He understands, in that single moment, a truth that no one in the Reich would dare to speak. This cannot be won. They are herded off the ship, not in chains, but with a cold, terrifying efficiency. They are marched to a processing centre, stripped and blasted with stinging, delousing powder. They are given blue denim work clothing, a bar of soap, and a new identity, a simple dog tag stamped with a serial number. Then, they are fed. It's not a meal. It's a statement. Karl is handed a tray with thick slices of white bread, a steaming portion of beef stew with potatoes and carrots, a square of yellow butter, and a tin mug of dark, sweet coffee. He watches a man beside him, a veteran of the siege of Tobruk, bite into the soft bread and begin to cry. It's a psychological unraveling. They had been told the American population was starving, their supply lines cut. This single, abundant meal makes a mockery of it all. They are loaded onto a train. The windows are blacked out, but through the gaps, Karl sees a country at peace. He sees civilian cars. He sees women in colourful dresses. He sees homes with lights on. After hours, the train groans to a halt. It's night. The air is thick, humid, and smells of pine and damp earth. End of the line krauts. Out. This is not a vast, sprawling camp of wooden towers and endless fences. They are in a forest. They are marched down a quiet road, surrounded by dense Virginia woods. They arrive at a gate with a small, unassuming sign. It does not say Stalag 17, or prisoner of war camp. It says P.O. Box 1142, Alexandria, Virginia. This is Fort Hunt. It's confusing. The barracks are clean. There are beds with mattresses. They are given cigarettes. There's a mess hall that serves food Karl hasn't seen since before the war. A golden cage, one of the officers mutters. Karl is separated from the main group. He is now an individual. The next morning, a guard calls his name. Schmidt, Karl. Interrogation. This is it. The moment he's been drilled for. Karl's hands are slick with sweat, but his resolve is firm. He will be a proper soldier. He will give them nothing. He will repeat his name, rank, and serial number until his throat is raw. Name, rank, serial number. He is marched to a small, single-story building that looks more like a doctor's office than an interrogation center. He is told to sit on a bench in a quiet hallway. The door opens. An American soldier in a khaki uniform, holding a clipboard, steps out. He's not a large, brutish guard. He's thin, wears glasses, and looks like a university student. Schmidt? The man asks in accented English. Karl nods, his heart pounding. Ja. Come in. Bitte, setzen Sie sich. Please, sit down. Karl walks into the small, plain room. A desk, 2 chairs, a window looking out at the trees. The American sits down, gestures for Karl to take the other chair, and opens a file. Karl sits bolt upright, his hands on his knees, staring straight ahead. He braces himself. The American glances at the file, then up at Karl. A small, polite smile touches his lips. Then, in a perfect, flawless, Schwäbisch dialect, the thick, rolling accent of Karl's own home, the accent of the Stuttgart marketplace, of his mother and father the interrogator, leans forward and says, So Karl, aus der Nähe von Stuttgart, gell? Ich wett, Sie vermissen den Geruch vom Marktplatz nach einem Regen. So Karl, from near Stuttgart, right? I bet you miss the smell of the market square after a rain. Karl Schmidt's blood turns to ice. His mouth falls open. His carefully constructed wall of name, rank, serial number, it doesn't just crack, it explodes into dust. The words hang in the still, pine-scented air. They are a key, unlocking a door in Karl's mind that he didn't know existed, and simultaneously short-circuiting every circuit of his military training. His tongue is a lead weight. His gaze snaps from the man's glasses to his collar, to the U.S. insignia. It's a uniform, an American uniform. But the voice is home. It's the sound of the baker on the corner, the sound of his uncle scolding him after church. It's not just the words, it's the music, the lazy, warm melody of the Schwäbisch countryside. A full 10 seconds pass. The man just watches him, a patient, almost sad look in his eyes. He is Corporal Weiss, according to the name tag on his shirt. Karl's mind races, trying to find a box to put this in. He's a spy. He must be. A defector? No. He's a Volksdeutscher, a German-American. His parents must have emigrated. That's the only logical explanation. You speak German, Karl stammers, the words sounding idiotic as soon as they leave his mouth. Corporal Weiss chuckles. It's a soft, unthreatening sound. He pushes a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes across the desk. Of course. And you, Obergefreiter, are probably wishing you had one of these. Karl's hand moves automatically, his body betraying his mind. He takes one. Weiss leans forward with a Zippo lighter, and Karl cups his trembling hands around the flame. He inhales deeply. The American tobacco is rich, sweet, and powerful. It's another small, luxurious comfort. Another crack in the dam. Weiss leans back in his chair, seemingly relaxed. He continues in that impossible, disarming dialect. It must have been hell in Tunisia. We heard the supplies were terrible. The Lancer bread, all sawdust, ja. And the Italians, they run at the first sound of a tank, don't they? He says it not as an accusation, but as a shared complaint. As if they were 2 old soldiers from the same village, complaining about the high command. Karl is adrift. This isn't an interrogation. It's a Gespräch. A conversation. His training is screaming at him. Name, rank, serial number. But how do you say that to a man who just asked you if you miss Spätzle? My name is Karl Schmidt, he begins, his voice sounding hollow. My rank is Obergefreiter. My serial number is… Weiss holds up a hand. Gently. Karl, stop. We can do that. But it's boring. And it's a lie. I know your serial number. I know your Feldpost number. I know you were with the 15th Panzer Division, 115th Panzer Grenadier Regiment. I know you were transferred from the 2nd Company to the 7th after Kasserine Pass. I know your Feldwebel was Steiner, who surrendered you on the 11th. I know your rifle was missing its cleaning rod. The Schwäbisch accent is gone. The voice is now crisp, precise, and cold. It's pure Hochdeutsch High German, the language of academics and officers. The sudden shift is more terrifying than any shout. Karl feels the blood drain from his face. The cigarette suddenly tastes like ash. This isn't a friendly chat. This is a dissection. How? You've been here for 2 days, Karl, Weiss says, his voice softening again, though the Hochdeutsch remains. You've eaten in the mess hall. You've talked to your Kameraden in the barracks. You've wondered why the guards are so few, why the fences are so low. He leans forward, and his voice drops to a near whisper. We are not guarding you to keep you in, Karl. We are guarding this place to keep America out. This entire camp is a microphone. The men you eat with? The prisoners you share a cigarette with in the yard? Some of them are not your friends. They are our ears. And you, Lancer, you love to complain. You talk about which tanks worked. You talk about how bad the food was. You talk about the new experimental machine gun that always jammed. And we listen. The golden cage snaps shut. The kindness, the food, the mattresset, it's all a carefully constructed stage. He hasn't been a prisoner. He's been a subject. Who are you? Karl asks, the question torn from him. You are not American. Corporal Weiss looks at Karl for a long moment. He takes off his glasses and rubs the bridge of his nose, suddenly looking as tired as the men captured on the beach. I was born in Stuttgart, Karl. I grew up on the Silberbergstrasse. I went to the Karls Gymnasium. I could probably name the street your family lives on. He puts his glasses back on. His eyes are hard. You are right. I am not American. Not really. Not yet. He stands up and walks to the window, looking out at the green Virginia forest. I am a German. I am also a Jew. My family owned a textile shop. In 1938, on a night you probably celebrated, your Sturmabteilung comrades smashed our windows, burned our shop, and beat my father half to death in the street. They called it Kristallnacht. He turns back to Karl. The room is silent. I was lucky. My mother had a cousin in Chicago. We got out. My father, he was not so lucky. He died in Dachau. Karl cannot breathe. This is impossible. This is the Untermensch, the subhuman degenerate, the international parasite from Goebbels' posters. But he is standing here, wearing the uniform of a world power, speaking Karl's own language with more purity than Karl himself. Your Führer, Weiss continues, his voice devoid of emotion, spent a decade telling the world we were not German. He took our homes, our businesses, our citizenship, and our families. He sowed the wind. And now, here I am, the whirlwind. He sits back down at the desk. You see, Karl, you cannot lie to me. You cannot. I don't just know your language. I know your mind. I know your slang. I know what you fear. I know what you love. And I know what you were told. I know the jokes you told about your officers. I know the songs you sang when you were drunk. I know your Heimat, because it was my Heimat first. The interrogation has only just begun, but it is already over. Karl Schmidt has no defences left. He is not facing a foreign enemy. He is facing a ghost he helped create. Now, Corporal Weiss says, picking up his pencil and tapping a fresh sheet of paper. Let's go back to Tunisia. You said the new Panzerfaust was effective, but only in certain conditions. Tell me about those conditions. Karl Schmidt walks out of the small interrogation room an hour later. The Virginia sun is high and hot, but he doesn't feel it. He feels hollowed out, as if his bones have been replaced with cold glass. He walks to the mess hall, sits with a tray of food he doesn't taste, and looks at the men around him. They are laughing. A table of Luftwaffe ground crewmen are arguing over a game of cards. 2 Panzer officers are quietly debating the merits of the new Tiger tank. But to Karl, the scene is now a grotesque stage play. Who are you? He thinks, looking at the man across from him, a fellow Gefreiter from his own unit. Are you a listener? Did you hear me complain about the new 88mm gun carriage last night? Did you write it down? The man, oblivious, offers Karl a cigarette. Karl flinches, as if from a snake. The man's friendly Berliner dialect now sounds like a threat. The golden cage is gone. P.O. Box 1142 is no longer a reprieve. It is a spider's web, and they are all, every last one of them, caught. The guards aren't there to keep them in. The fences aren't there to keep America out. The entire facility exists to make them talk. And the men listening aren't just soldiers. They are the past, returned with a vengeance. This is not an isolated incident. This is a system. In another building, a U-boat Kapitänleutnant, Kurt Hoffmann, is having a very different, yet identical, experience. He is a man of pure arrogance, a believer in the Kriegsmarine and the invincibility of the wolf pack. He has survived 300 days at sea. He is not afraid of an American farm boy in a uniform. His interrogator, a man who introduces himself as Sergeant Adler, is a thin, pale man with ink stains on his fingers. He doesn't ask about fleet movements. He doesn't ask for codes. He asks, in the perfect clipped accent of a Hamburg shipping magnate, "Tell me, Capitaine, is the Blauer Peter bar in Kiel still serving that terrible French brandy?" Hoffmann's smugness falters. How do you know this place?" "I used to drink there," Adler says, not looking up from his file. "Before you and your party decided it was a Judenfrei establishment." Adler then proceeds, with the dry precision of an accountant, to lay out Hoffmann's last patrol. He knows the grid coordinates of the rendezvous with the milk cow supply sub. He knows the name of the first watch officer's mistress in Lorient. He even knows the specific vibration floor in the new G.7s acoustic torpedoes. They're a menace, aren't they? Adler muses. The guidance system, it's too sensitive. It keeps homing in on the sound of your own engines after you fire. Hoffmann is white. This isn't intelligence. This is gossip. Intimate, technical, impossible gossip. "Who are you?" Hoffmann demands, his voice cracking. Sergeant Adler finally looks up. His eyes are not angry. They are cold. "I was a maritime insurance lawyer in Berlin. I insured the Hamburg-America line. I knew every ship, every captain, every tonnage. Your Gross Admiral Dönitz? He was just a Kapitan then. He signed papers that crossed my desk." Adler leans forward, the mask of the American sergeant dropping. "You people, you thought we were just numbers, parasites. You thought you could just erase us, but you didn't. You trained us. You created the perfect weapon against you. You built an army of men who knew your every secret, every weakness, every regional dialect, and then you kicked us out. And we came right back. These are the men of Fort Hunt, and other secret sites like it. They are not, for the most part, American-born. They are the intellectual and human refuse of the Reich, reforged. They are academics from Heidelberg, musicians from Vienna, bankers from Frankfurt, lawyers from Berlin, journalists from Munich. Many are Jewish. All are refugees. All are driven by a cold, precise, and deeply personal fury. They had been pulled from basic training camps across America, where they were often looked at with suspicion. Why does this Private Cohen speak German better than the camp commandant? But a few high-level intelligence officers recognized the goldmine they had. They were sent to a special military intelligence training center in Maryland, Camp Ritchie. They became the Ritchie Boys. They were taught to turn their memory into a weapon. They learned to identify the Waffen-SS blood group tattoo under a man's arm. They learned to distinguish a man from Bavaria by the way he cursed, from a Prussian by the way he clicked his heels. And now, here at Fort Hunt, they are unleashing this psychological arsenal. They don't use torture. They don't need to. They have something far more powerful. They have familiarity. They have the shared past that the Reich had so violently tried to destroy. and they are using it to dismantle the Nazi war machine, one prisoner, one secret, one shattered Obergefreiter at a time. It is 2 weeks later. Karl Schmidt is sitting across from Corporal Weiss again. The room is the same, but the atmosphere has changed completely. The pretense is gone. It is no longer an interrogation. It's a transaction. Karl is a broken open book. The act of psychological surrender, once complete, is irreversible. He has, in a strange, dislocated way, adopted Weiss as a confessor. Weiss is the only man on this continent who understands his world. And so, Karl talks. The new replacement troops, they were not good, Karl says, staring at his hands. He's not reporting, he's complaining. They were boys, 16, 17 years old. They arrived from the Ersatz replacement army, and they did not even know how to properly clean their rifles. In Africa, the sand gets everywhere. Steinemi Feldwebel, he said, these children will not last a week. He was right. Weiss nods, his pencil scratching on a legal pad. And the Panzerfaust? You mentioned it before. A good weapon, Karl concedes, the pride of the Lancer briefly surfacing. Very simple, but the sights, they are useless. You are supposed to aim for the engine. But to get close enough to hit the engine, you are already dead. We learned to aim for the tracks. Just stop the Sherman. Then the 88 seconds can kill it. But the officers, they read the manuals. They shouted, aim for the turret. Fools. They sit in a bunker, they read a paper, and we die in the sand. Karl stops. He is sweating. I shouldn't. I am talking too much. It's all right, Karl, Weiss says, his voice neutral. This is just for the report, to understand what happened. But it is not just for a report. That night, in a locked room in another building at Fort Hunt, Corporal Weiss meets with Sergeant Adler and 3 other men. They are the committee. They are not soldiers. They are a law professor from Bonn, a textile engineer from Krefeld, and a political journalist from Vienna. They are surrounded by chalkboards and corkboards, upon which a vast web of information is being pinned. The Panzerfaust complaint is a pattern, Weiss says, pinning an index card to the board. This is the 12th Gefreiter, from 3 different divisions, to say the sights are bad and the doctrine is wrong. They are all being taught to aim for the turret, and they are all dying. Adler nods, adding his own card. My U-boat Kapitan confirmed it. The T5 Zonkonig torpedo homes on propeller cavitation. He was, in fact, quite proud of it. He corrected me. And what is the counter? The law professor asks. Simple, Adler replies, a thin, grim smile on his face. You tow a noisemaker. A foxer. Anything that makes more cavitation than the ship's own screws. The torpedo will go for the decoy. I've already sent the technical specifications to the Navy. This is the harvest. This is the real work of P.O. Box 1142. It's a mosaic. A single piece of information is useless. Karl's complaint about the Panzerfaust sights is just a soldier's gripe. But 12 such gripes? That is a fatal flaw in Wehrmacht training doctrine. A report is sent to the Allied High Command. When facing infantry with Panzerfausts, Allied armor should expose their turrets. The enemy is being incorrectly trained to aim for them, and the weapon is highly inaccurate at that range. A Luftwaffe pilot, under the friendly questioning of the Viennese journalist, complains about the synthetic rubber gaskets in his Messerschmitt's fuel lines. They crack at high altitudes. This small, technical complaint, when cross-referenced with reports from 2 other captured pilots, allows Allied intelligence to pinpoint the exact synthetic rubber plant in Romania that is producing the faulty equipment. 2 weeks later, B-17 seconds, from the 15th Air Force level that factory. This is the true terrifying power of Fort Hunt. The interrogators are not just finding secrets, they are connecting them. They are building a complete, living, breathing model of the Third Reich's mind. They know the morale of the civilians in Cologne. They know the production bottlenecks at the Focke-Wulf factory in Bremen. They know that the new King Tiger tank breaks its own transmission if it tries to turn too sharply. And they know about the weapons. In another room, a high-value prisoner physicist captured at a radar station is not being asked about his home. He is being asked by a man who was once his colleague at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Berlin, and they are not speaking German. They are speaking the universal language of mathematics. They are talking about V2 rockets, about Peenemünde, about the Wunderwaffen, the wonder weapons that Hitler believes will win the war. The prisoners, one by one, are unburdening themselves. Some, like Karl, do it from psychological collapse. Others, like Hoffmann, do it from technical arrogance. And some do it because they secretly want the war to end. They see the madness and want out. But the reason doesn't matter. The result is the same. From the dust of Tunisia and the wreckage of the Atlantic, a torrent of information is flowing into these quiet Virginia woods. And the Ritchie Boys are turning that information into a razor. They are finding the Reich's arteries, and they are teaching the Allies exactly where and how to cut. This is not a war of bullets. This is a war of files. In a brightly lit room, far from Karl's barracks, the man who was a physicist from Berlin American in a U.S. Army uniform, who now simply calls himself Major Cole, is staring at a map. It's a map of the Baltic coast. He is not interrogating his prisoner, a captured Luftwaffe general named Wilhelm von Richter. He is, instead, collaborating with him. Von Richter is a different case from Karl. He is an old guard Prussian aristocrat. He despises the Nazis, viewing them as vulgar, brown-shirted thugs. He did not surrender. He was captured after his plane was shot down. And now, he has a choice. They are madmen, Wilhelm, Cole says quietly, in the Plattdeutsch, Low German, of the northern coast, the language of their shared privileged youth. You know this. He is driving the country into an abyss. He is the Führer, von Richter says stiffly, but his eyes are haunted. He is a Gefreiter, Cole counters, using the ultimate insult of the Prussian officer class, a corporal. And he is listening to him. Cole points to a name on a file. Heinrich Himmler. This wonder weapon. This V2. Cole continues. It is not a military weapon. You know this. It's inaccurate. It's a terror weapon. It's designed to kill civilians, not win battles. And it is being built by SS slave labor, by prisoners from Buchenwald and Mittelbau-Dora. Cole slides a photograph across the table. It's a grainy aerial reconnaissance photo of a work camp. It's not the photo that matters. It's the source. This is not war, Wilhelm, Cole says, his voice a razor. This is industry. It's mass production murder. You are a soldier. Is this what you fight for? Von Richter looks at the photo, then at the map. He is silent for a long time. Finally, he picks up a red pencil, his hand shaking almost imperceptibly. He draws a small circle on the map, around a nondescript island. Eustum, he says, his voice a dry rasp. Peenemünde. He doesn't stop there. He begins to talk. He talks about rocket fuel mixtures. He talks about gyroscopic guidance systems. He talks about launch trajectories and test range failures. This single, high-level debriefing, when combined with dozens of other, seemingly unrelated scraps of information, creates a firestorm. The Ritchie Boys are in a frenzy. A captured Lanzer Marshal, a low-level supply clerk, mentions his entire company was reassigned to haul strange-smelling potatoes near a coastal town. He's talking about hydrazine rocket fuel. A U-boat radio operator, complaining about security protocols, mentions a new restricted radio frequency, used only for the northern test zone. Karl Schmidt's own debrief, buried in a pile of reports, mentions seeing long, cigar-shaped things covered in tarps on a train passing through his hometown, heading north. Corporal Weiss, Sergeant Adler, and Major Cole stand in front of their massive corkboard. They are no longer just interrogators. They are analysts, connecting threads invisible to anyone else. The Clarks, potatoes. Weiss says, pointing to a card. The radio frequency, Karl's cigars. And now, von Richter's map. Adler steps back. My God, it's a factory. A massive one. And it's all right here. A top-secret cable is sent directly from P.O. Box 1142 to the highest levels of the Allied High Command in London. It is not a summary. It is a precise, detailed, and undeniable blueprint of the greatest threat to the Allied invasion of Europe. Weeks later, on the night of August 17th, 1943, nearly 600 heavy bombers from RAF Bomber Command appear in the skies over the Baltic coast. It is Operation Hydra. The target, Peenemünde. The bombs rain down, not on the launch pads, but on the laboratories, the assembly halls, and most critically the living quarters of the scientists and technicians. The V2 program is not destroyed, but it is crippled. It is set back by months. Months that will be vital. Months that will allow the Allies to plan and execute D-Day without a rain of terror rockets falling on the staging grounds in southern England. Back at Fort Hunt, Karl Schmidt knows nothing of this. He only knows that one day Corporal Weiss seems lighter, less burdened. "You look well, Karl," Weiss says, offering him a cigarette. "This time, it's not an interrogation. It's just a break. It is quiet here." Karl replies. "Yes, it is," Weiss says, looking out the window at the peaceful Virginia woods. "It's a good place to think, to figure things out." Karl looks at the man who has systematically dismantled his mind. He doesn't feel hatred. He feels a strange, profound exhaustion. He feels seen. "You are not like them," Karl says, gesturing to the American guards outside. "You are not like us. What happens when this is over?" Weiss takes a long drag from his cigarette. The question hangs in the air. The man who was born in Stuttgart, who fled for his life, who returned as an avenger in a foreign uniform, what does happen to him? "When this is over," Weiss says finally, "we will have to see if there is anything left of home to go back to, for any of us." This is the hidden cost of the victory. The Ritchie Boys are winning the intelligence war, but in the process, they are sifting through the ashes of their own lives. They are forced to confront, in intimate, daily detail, the very language, culture, and people that rejected and tried to exterminate them. And with every secret they extract, they are one step further from the home they can never, ever return to. May 8th, 1945. Fort Hunt, Virginia. The war in Europe is over. The news spreads through the Golden Cage, not with a bang, but with a strange, hollow silence. There are no cheers from the American guards. There are no riots from the German prisoners. There is only a profound, collective stillness, as if 300,000 men have simultaneously stopped holding their breath. For Karl Schmidt, the end is an abstraction. He has been a prisoner for 2 years, longer than he was a soldier. He has been well fed, safe from artillery, and cut off from the world. He has been living in a quiet Virginia purgatory, while his country has been consumed by a firestorm. He is summoned one last time to the small interrogation room. Corporal Weiss is already there, waiting for him. The desk is clear. There are no files, no pencils, no notepads, just the pack of lucky strikes. Weiss looks older. The skin around his eyes is tight with a weariness that goes beyond fatigue. He slides a cigarette to Karl. They light them. "It is finished," Karl says, the words sounding foreign. "Yes," Weiss replies. "It is." The Schwäbisch dialect is back, soft, familiar, like the echo of a forgotten life. "We are going home?" Karl asks. Weiss looks at him, and Karl sees something in his eyes he has never seen before. Pity. "There is one last thing you need to see, Karl," Weiss says. He reaches under the desk and places a small stack of black and white photographs on the table. He pushes the first one in front of Karl. It's a pile of things. At first, Karl's mind cannot process it. They look like firewood, or mannequins, discarded from a shop. They are white, emaciated, and tangled. What is this?" "That," Weiss says, his voice flat, "is Buchenwald." He pushes another photo, a bulldozer, a massive, open pit, filled with those same white, tangled shapes, and standing nearby, in a striped uniform, is a man who is not a man, but a living skeleton. This is Dachau. Another, a sign, Arbeit macht frei, and beyond it, a sprawl of low, dark buildings with a tall chimney. This is Auschwitz. Karl stares at the photographs. He feels nothing. A cold, static numbness. This is propaganda. It must be. This is the same as the posters of the Bolshevik monster or the Jewish parasite. It is a lie. This is not real, Karl whispers. My father died in Dachau, Karl, Weiss says, his voice dangerously quiet. Before the war even started. This is what he died for. This is what you were fighting for. No, the word bursts from Karl. I fought for Germany. I fought the British in the desert. I am a soldier. I am not this. He gestures at the photos, repulsed. You think this is a secret? Weiss leans forward, his patience gone, the cold Hochdeutsch returning like a slap. You think the Wehrmacht didn't know? Who guarded the trains that delivered these people? Who built the fences? Who supplied the guards? You fought to protect this. This is the Reich, Karl. This is its heart, not the Brandenburg Gate, not the castles on the Rhine. This. The photos are the final, most brutal interrogation. They are the truth that Weiss and the other Ritchie Boys have been fighting for. They weren't just extracting secrets about torpedoes and tanks. They were fighting to expose this. Karl looks at the picture of the gate. Arbeit macht frei. Work sets you free. He thinks of his 2 years at Fort Hunt, the good food, the clean beds, the cigarettes. He, the Kriegsgefangener, the enemy, has been living in a golden cage, while the people his side had imprisoned. He puts his head in his hands, and a dry, racking sob tears through him. It is not a sob of guilt, not yet. It is a sob of pure, total disintegration. His world, his memories, his pride, his Heimatit is all, in this instant, soaked in the blood and ash of an incomprehensible crime. Weiss watches him for a full minute. The anger in his face slowly recedes, replaced by that deep, profound weariness. He has won. His vengeance is complete. He has not only helped defeat the Reich, he has now forced its soldier to see it. And it feels like nothing. He stands up and walks to the window, looking out at the trees, just as he did in their first meeting. You asked me what happens when it's over, Weiss says to the glass. Now you know. This is what's left. He turns back. Karl is just a man, a 2-3-year-old from Stuttgart, hollowed out and broken. There is no more Reich, there are no more Untermenschen. There are only the survivors. You will go home soon, Karl, Weiss says, his voice soft again, back in the dialect of their shared, lost home. Back to Stuttgart, or what's left of it. You will have to see for yourself, and you will have to learn to live with this. He gestures to the photos. And you? Karl asks, his voice muffled. Will you come back? To Stuttgart? Weiss smiles, a small, sad, and final smile. No, I am American now. My home, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just a place on a map, and a language we both remember. He opens the door. Go back to your barracks, Karl. Karl Schmidt stands up. He walks past the man who was born a German Jew in Stuttgart, the man who became an American soldier in Virginia. He steps out into the hallway, no longer an Obergefreiter of the Deutsches Afrikakorps, but something new, something he does not yet have a name for. He is a witness. Corporal Weiss, the man who was a ghost, watches him go. He then sits back down at his desk, in the silence of the Virginia woods, a citizen of a new world, built upon the ashes of the old.